They were already staring at her before anyone said a word. Ariana Wells felt it the moment she stepped into the restaurant. The kind of silence that isn't quiet, but heavy. The kind that presses into your chest and reminds you that you don't belong. She was black. She wore a janitor's uniform. And in a room full of power, money, and polished smiles, that was enough to make her guilty before she even breathed. Then a man stood up, a billionaire. His voice shook the walls when he accused her of stealing the necklace that once belonged to his dead wife. In that instant, Ariana's heart dropped into her stomach. Not because she was afraid of prison, but because she knew this moment. She had lived it her entire life. The looks, the assumptions, the certainty that no one would believe her. What she didn't know was that this accusation was about to rip open a truth buried for 23 years. A truth so dangerous, it would put her life in immediate danger. Stay, because something shocking is about to be revealed, and nothing will ever be the same again. The first thing everyone noticed was the silence. It fell hard over Ravenhill Grand Bistro, heavy enough to make forks pause mid-air and conversations die in people's throats. 1 second earlier, the room had been full of laughter, crystal glasses clinking, polished shoes brushing against marble floors. The next second, all eyes were locked on a single woman standing near the service corridor. She was black. She wore a gray janitor's uniform, and around her neck hung a gold pendant that did not belong there. "That necklace," one of the man said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass, "belongs to my wife." Jonathan Crossfield, billionaire CEO of Crossfield Holdings, stood rigid beside his table. His hand trembled as he pointed directly at her. His tailored suit, his silver cufflinks, his posture, everything about him screamed authority. The kind of authority people rarely question. The woman froze. Her name was Ariana Wells. She had been wiping down a counter moments earlier, trying to make herself invisible the way she'd learned to do in places like this. She was 23, black, and poor. 3 things that had taught her, early on, how quickly a room could turn against her. Instinctively, she reached for her neck, covering the pendant with both hands. "I didn't steal anything," she said. Her voice was calm, but her pulse thundered in her ears. "Sir, I swear." Jonathan stepped forward. Chairs scraped backward. Someone gasped. A few diners pulled out their phones, already sensing something ugly and entertaining was about to happen. "I've been searching for that necklace for 23 years, Jonathan said, each word controlled, lethal. "It vanished the night my wife died, and now it's hanging from the neck of a cleaning woman in my restaurant. Explain that." The manager, Victor Lane, rushed over, his face pale with panic. "Mr. Crossfield, please. This employee is new. We'll handle it," he said quickly, then turned to Ariana with barely contained disgust. "You're fired. Give it back and leave before I call the police." His hand closed around her arm. Ariana hissed in pain. Before anyone could react, Jonathan seized the manager's wrist and twisted it hard enough to make him yelp. "Take your hands off her," Jonathan said quietly. "Now." Victor backed away immediately. The room buzzed with whispers. "She had no business wearing that. Of course it's stolen. Look at her. Where else would she get it?" Ariana heard every word. She lifted her chin anyway. Jonathan stood inches from her now. Up close, she could see the grief beneath his anger, the kind that never healed, only hardened. "Give me the necklace," he said, holding out his hand. "No," Ariana replied. The words slipped out before fear could stop it. "It's mine," she said, tightening her grip. "It was given to me. It's the only thing I have from my mother." Jonathan laughed once, bitter and broken. "My wife wore that necklace the night she died," he snapped. "She never took it off. No one survived that crash. No one." The room felt too small. Ariana swallowed. Her heart pounded, but something steadier, older, rose beneath it. A lifetime of being doubted, accused, watched. "If you think I stole it," she said softly, "tell me what's written on the back." Jonathan stopped breathing. "What?" "Read it," Ariana said, her voice shaking but firm. She unclasped the chain and held the pendant up between them, close enough for him to see, but not close enough to touch. "If it was your wife's, you'll know." The gold caught the chandelier light. Jonathan's lips parted. He stared, Then in a voice stripped bare, he whispered, M plus J, forever. A ripple went through the room. Ariana turned the pendant slowly. The engraving was there, faded but unmistakable. M plus J, forever. Jonathan reached for it with trembling fingers, tracing the letters like a prayer. How old are you? He asked hoarsely. 23. When were you born? I don't know, Ariana said. I was found outside an orphanage. December 12th. The date hit him like a punch. December 12th, the night of the crash. The night his wife, Margaret Crossfield, had been buried, along with the child she was carrying. Come with me, Jonathan said suddenly. Ariana stepped back. No, I'm not going anywhere with you. He pulled out his wallet and dropped a thick stack of bills onto the table. 10,000, just to talk. Her eyes flicked to the money, then back to him. 30, she said quietly. And you give the necklace back when we're done. Jonathan nodded without hesitation. Deal. Minutes later, they were locked inside a private dining room. Jonathan's call to his doctor was short, urgent. Bring DNA testing equipment, he said. Now. Ariana's unease grew. This isn't what we agreed on, she said. You said talk. And we will, Jonathan replied. After the truth. She crossed her arms, pressing her back to the wall. This man frightened her, but not as much as the idea that he might be right. The doctor arrived, swabs were taken. A check for $50,000 slid across the table. And then the waiting began. Hours passed. Tension thickened the air. Ariana thought of every time she'd been followed in a store, every job interview where the smile faded the moment she walked in, every accusation that came too easily. When the phone finally rang, both of them flinched. Jonathan answered on speaker. Jonathan, the doctor said, voice exhausted. I ran it 3 times. Silence. It's a match one, the doctor continued. 99.9%. She's your daughter. Ariana covered her mouth. Jonathan sank to his knees. My God, he whispered. You're alive. The words slipped out of her before she could stop it. Dad. The room shattered and reassembled all at once. But outside that locked door, the world hadn't changed yet. The whispers still existed. The stares still waited. And somewhere in the past, a truth buried in fire and lies was beginning to stir. Because if Ariana Wells was truly Jonathan Crossfield's daughter, then someone had spent 23 years making sure she never knew it. And they wouldn't want the truth coming out now. Before we continue, what do you think? Do you believe Ariana would have been accused so quickly if she weren't a black woman in a janitor's uniform? Yes or no? Your answers matter, because in the next part, the truth won't just hurt, it will put lives in danger. The word daughter changed everything, and somehow nothing at all. By sunrise, the news hadn't broken yet, but the weight of it pressed against Ariana Wells' chest like a hand that refused to let go. She sat stiffly in the leather chair inside Jonathan Crossfield's private penthouse, staring out at a city that had never once made room for her. Just hours ago, she'd been mopping floors. Now she was apparently the heir to a man whose name could silence rooms. Jonathan stood by the window, his back rigid, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, controlled, the way men spoke when they were used to being obeyed. No press, he said. No board members. No one leaves this floor without my clearance. He hung up and turned toward her. Ariana flinched before she could stop herself. He noticed. Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe, but it vanished just as fast. You're safe here, Jonathan said. Ariana let out a sharp, humorless laugh. You locked the doors and took my phone. That's protection. That's not what it feels like, she replied. Her hands trembled, so she folded them tightly in her lap. It feels like every time a powerful man says he's protecting someone like me, what he really means is controlling the situation. Jonathan didn't interrupt her. That surprised him. You accused me in public, Ariana continued, her voice steady now. Your manager grabbed me like I was nothing. And everyone already decided I was guilty before you even finished your sentence. She met his eyes. You don't get to tell me I'm safe without acknowledging that. Jonathan exhaled slowly. You're right, he said. I failed you, in that restaurant, and long before that. Before Ariana could respond, the elevator chimed. A tall man stepped out, clean-cut, sharp-eyed, wearing a tailored suit that radiated quiet judgment. Jonathan? the man said coolly. "We need to talk." "This is Calvin Moore," Jonathan told Ariana. "My attorney." Calvin's gaze slid over her, lingering a fraction too long on her clothes, her skin, her posture. "So," Calvin said, "this is her." Ariana straightened. "This is me." Calvin smirked faintly. "Do you have any idea how many scams target wealthy families every year?" Jonathan's jaw tightened. "The DNA test can be manipulated," Calvin cut in, "especially when grief is involved." Ariana stood up. "You think I planned this?" she demanded. "You think I spent my life waiting to clean the right restaurant on the right night?" Calvin shrugged. "I think desperation makes people creative." The words hit harder than a slap. Jonathan turned on him. "Enough!" But the damage was done. Ariana grabbed her jacket. "I want to leave." "You can't," Jonathan said. "Not yet." She stared at him. "Because you don't trust me?" "Because someone else might be watching," he replied. "If you are my daughter, and I believe you are, then someone lied. Someone covered up that crash. And people who bury truths that deep don't like them being dug up." As if summoned by the words, Jonathan's phone buzzed, a text message. "Stop digging. Some graves are better left sealed." Oriana's blood ran cold. Jonathan handed her the phone. "They already know." Within the hour, Jonathan had summoned Detective Aaron Blake, a former federal investigator with tired eyes and a scar that spoke of unfinished battles. "The crash was ruled accidental," Blake said, scanning files spread across the table. "But the records are thin, too thin." "So someone made sure they were," Ariana said quietly. Blake looked at her. Really looked this time. Not as a suspect, not as a mistake. "As a survivor," he said. Their first lead came from an unlikely place, a rural senior care facility an hour outside the city, a former nurse. When they arrived, Ariana stayed close to Jonathan, aware of the way eyes followed her. Even now, even here, she felt the weight of being out of place. The nurse, Martha, squinted at Ariana from her wheelchair. "You've got her eyes," she murmured. "Who?" Ariana asked. "The woman from the paper. The night of the fire." Martha's hands shook as she spoke. "A man came to the clinic soaked in blood," she said. "Leather jacket, limping. He asked for milk, for a baby." Jonathan's breath hitched. "He said the mother was gone," Martha continued, "but the child wasn't." On the way back, Ariana's phone vibrated again. "Enjoy your new life while you can." They weren't just watching, they were hunting. The trail led them to Henry Boone, an elderly man living on the edge of the city's forgotten district, a place Ariana knew well, too well. Jonathan hesitated at the border of the neighborhood, flanked by security. Ariana stopped walking. "Let me talk," she said. "This place isn't safe." "It never is," she replied, "but I know how to move through it." Inside the abandoned warehouse, tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight, a gun cocked. "Go away," a voice growled from the shadows. Ariana stepped forward. "I'm alive," she said. "I'm the baby from the fire." The man emerged slowly, older, broken, eyes wet with disbelief. "I kept my promise," he whispered. "I hid you where money couldn't reach." That was when the truth shattered. The crash had been deliberate. Men in black vehicles. Orders given. A baby taken to erase an heir. Gunfire exploded before the words could settle. Someone screamed. Jonathan pulled Ariana down as bullets tore through rusted metal. In the chaos, Detective Blake was hit. Shoulder not fatal, but enough to slow them down. They escaped through tunnels beneath the warehouse. Breath ragged, hearts racing. By the time they reached safety, one thing was clear. This wasn't just about a lost daughter. It was about power, and someone had tried to kill a black child to keep it. Jonathan looked at Ariana, blood on his sleeve, fear in his eyes. "I won't lose you again," he said. Ariana believed him, but belief didn't stop bullets, and the war had only just begun. Morning came quietly, almost cruelly so. Ariana Wells woke up on a narrow bed inside a small farmhouse, hidden deep in the woods, far from cameras, headlines, and power. For the first time since her world cracked open, there were birds instead of sirens, wind instead of whispers. She sat up slowly, touching the gold pendant at her neck. For 23 years, she had believed she was invisible by accident. Now she understood it had been by design. Jonathan Crossfield stood outside, staring at the tree line with a cup of untouched coffee in his hand. He looked older than he had 3 days earlier, like a man who had finally stopped running from grief. "You didn't sleep," Ariana said, stepping beside him. Jonathan shook his head. "Every time I close my eyes, I see you in that restaurant, surrounded, judged, and I wasn't fast enough." Ariana studied him carefully. "You weren't there at all," she said. "That's the part I'm still trying to forgive." He didn't argue. "I won't ask you to trust me yet," Jonathan said, "but I'm done hiding. And I'm done letting other people decide whose life matters." By noon, Detective Aaron Blake arrived, arm bandaged, face set with determination. "We've got enough," he said. "Financial records, call logs, offshore transfers. Calvin Moore didn't act alone." Jonathan's eyes darkened. "Who else?" "The board," Blake replied. "They thought your wife and unborn child were obstacles. Clean slate, clean control." Ariana's stomach twisted. "So killing a baby was just business?" she asked. Blake met her gaze. "To them, yes." Jonathan closed his eyes. "That ends today." The confrontation came faster than anyone expected. That afternoon, Jonathan called an emergency board meeting at Crossfield Tower. The city buzzed with rumors by the time Ariana walked into the glass-walled boardroom. No longer in a janitor's uniform, but in a simple cream-colored suit. Her natural curls framed her face. Her posture was calm, unbreakable. The room went silent. Some board members stared. Others looked away. Edgar Whitlock, the board chair, forced a tight smile. "Jonathan, we were told you were unwell." Jonathan stepped aside. "I'm not here to speak," he said. "She is." Ariana felt the weight of every eye in the room, the same kind of weight she'd felt her entire life, sharpened now by wealth, power, and fear. "My name is Ariana Wells," she began. "I was raised in foster homes and orphanages. I cleaned your floors, I served your dinners, and last week, you would have had me arrested without hesitation." No one interrupted her. "Today, you're going to hear me because you have no choice." Detective Blake stepped forward, dropping folders onto the table. Audio recordings played. Financial trails lit up screens. Confessions echoed through speakers. Calvin Moore's name came up again and again. Then Edgar Whitlock broke. "This was never supposed to go this far," he snapped. "We protected the company." "You protected yourselves," Ariana said, "at the cost of my mother's life and mine." Police entered the room. Handcuffs followed. When it was over, the power structure that had ruled for decades collapsed in a matter of minutes. News spread like wildfire. Billionaire's lost daughter found. Corruption exposed. Board arrested. But Ariana didn't celebrate. That night, she and Jonathan stood side by side at a quiet cemetery outside the city. A single headstone bore her mother's name. Ariana knelt. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. "I didn't know your voice, or your laugh, but I carry your strength every day." Jonathan placed a hand on her shoulder. "I failed you both," he said, voice breaking. "But I swear, I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." Ariana stood. "Then start by listening," she said gently. "Not just to me, to people who look like me, people who've been ignored their whole lives." He nodded. "I will." Shrey. Weeks later, Ariana made a decision that shocked the media even more than the scandal. She didn't move into the penthouse. She kept her apartment. She kept her job for a while too, not because she had to, but because she wanted to finish something on her own terms. And then she announced the Margaret Wells Foundation, a fund dedicated to children of color lost in the system, children written off, erased, silenced. She stood at the podium, cameras flashing. "This isn't charity," Ariana said. "It's accountability. My life was nearly erased because powerful people thought no one would care. I'm here to prove them wrong." Jonathan watched from the back of the room, pride and humility written across his face. Later, when the noise faded, Ariana sat alone, scrolling through messages, thousands of them, from Black women who said, "I've been Ariana," from parents who said, "We're teaching our kids to see better," from people admitting, quietly, "I didn't realize how deep this goes." Jonathan joined her. "You changed more than a company," he said. Ariana smiled softly. "No, I just stopped letting the world tell me who I was allowed to be." He hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. "Will you ever forgive me?" Ariana thought for a long moment. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting," she said. "It's choosing not to let the past own me." She met his eyes. and I'm choosing to move forward. Father and daughter stood together as the sun dipped below the skyline, not as a billionaire and an heir, but as two people rebuilding something stolen: trust, truth, family. And somewhere between the weight of history and the promise of tomorrow, Ariana Wells finally belonged, on her own terms. Before you leave, we want to hear from you. How did this story make you feel? Do you think Ariana's choice, to use her power to lift others, was the right one? If this story moved you, comment 111 below so we know you stayed to the end. And tell us, which country are you watching from? If you believe stories like this matter, please share this video so more people can hear it. Thank you for listening.